Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine with another album review, and this time it is Steve Hackett and the Circus and the Nightwhale. This is a concept album, and for me, it's one of the best albums of his entire career. So I'm going to go through some of the tracks, but I'm saying that up front if some of you just want to know what's it like. As I said, to me, it's one of his finest albums. So here we go. Let's have a look at the cover as well, and I'll show you the booklet that comes with the vinyl version. So you can see this coming up on the screen now. It's a gatefold sleeve. There is also a CD and DVD version with a 5.1 mix as well. I imagine it sounds absolutely fantastic in 5.1, but I've got the vinyl version here. You can see on the gatefold sleeve, there's a great picture of Steve on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side is all the tracks and the songwriting credits, and also where it's recorded, and there's also all the credits of who's played on what. Obviously there's a load of musicians on it, as you'd expect, but there's also a personal note from Steve as well, and he says that he's creating this album has been a kind of anchor amidst an ongoing storm of post-lockdown tours. Music has been at the centre of all things for me, providing a key that has never rusted since 1950, the year of my birth. Starting with the way radio sounded at the time sets the scene for the first track, kicking off my personal life journey in post-war recovering London. A coal-fired world of smoke, my parents struggling to rear a young, highly strung child. Are you sitting comfortably? Hell no. Guitars had yet to learn how to scream and cry. They certainly have done since. So I had to make do with my own voice as a squalling newborn. The whole album is both faction and fiction, following my adventures through life. It begins in a very real, gritty world. But as I'm beckoned into the creative realm, I'm jumping into a dreamscape of symbolic challenges reflecting the quests of Homer, Collodi, and an ocean of stories. My personal journey is also universal. So I call the traveller of this story, Traveller, Steve Hackett. As you saw or on the screen, it comes with a fantastic booklet, all the lyrics, lots of imagery and stuff. It is a concept album. I think a lot of progressive artists or people of Steve's generation will kind of toy and say it's based around a concept, but this really is a concept album. It's autobiographical. But I think why it works and why it feels so special to me is that we can all put ourselves into the story. There are universal themes here. It doesn't matter whether you went off to be form a world-class rock band and your well-known name. All of us, as we go through life, will have ebbs and flows and, good things and bad things happen to us. I mean, life tells us, doesn't it, that if you really, truly love, then you're going to experience pain by being so attached to somebody or something. And I think that what comes through in this set of songs is that in Steve's music, and a lot of times it's done without words being necessary. And I think that's really how this music to me has affected me on a very, very deep level. And I think that one of the things that makes it important for a musician of Steve's generation is that going back 50 odd years, the audience was young, as were the musicians, all looking forwards to what we're going to be doing in 10 years. The adventure was right ahead of us. Musicians like Steve have gone through life now, and many people in the audience have experienced loss, pain, disappointment, or have gone through life-changing events themselves. And I think what makes this album so special, and Steve such a perfect musician and writer to carry this and deliver this to us as fans or as just music lovers, is he's in touch with that. I think I've interviewed Steve a couple of times now for the Now Spinning Magazine podcast, and I'm very interested and intrigued because about one of my straplines is music is the healer and the doctor, and Steve is also incredibly involved and believes the fact that music heals. And that comes across in his compositions and his playing. So let's have a quick dive into this album to start with. Now, the first track is called People of the Smoke, and it starts with a absolute beautiful collage of sound. It's 1950 sound effects, steam trains, babies crying, obviously Steve arriving. It's very theatrical. This album, I know, with all the pressures of playing all the Genesis stuff and all the amount of wealth of material that Steve's got, he won't probably be able to play this from beginning to end live, but it deserves that. And I think, in years to come, it's going to be seen as something that's at the pinnacle of his output, really. It has fantastic guitar parts in it, really aggressive, lots of tapping. I think people don't always think about Steve Hackett as being one of the exponents of tapping on the guitar neck, but he's absolutely brilliant. It's a great song. It's progressive, it's exciting, it's theatrical. I absolutely love it. The next one that comes in is These Passing Clouds. This has a kind of Latin kind of jazz feel, although it's a kind of like Black Orpheus type feel to it, really. Lovely melodic guitar lines, really emotive, absolutely stunning. Next is Taking You Down. This has a very bluesy, almost purple-esque feel to it. In fact, I shall use the purple kind of like words or kind of assimilations to what I think it sounds like more than once on this album. But it's got a great drum sound. The production's really, really good. Fabulous saxophone solo in there as well. Absolutely beautiful. And Found and Lost is another one. This is very orchestral, Spanish guitar, laid back track. It's got like a late night smoky jazz feel. Very kind of visually. Steve calls these things like they're like. It's like theatre or cinema for your ears, and I think this is what this album is. But it's those of you who love the Blue Note Jazz record label and all those covers about always taking of the musician from a certain angle with the cigarette smoke floating up, usually in a window or doorway. It conjures up that kind of feel in the music. It's just fantastic. Next, as I'm just flicking through the booklets that it's in front of me that you've seen, next is Enter the Ring. Now, this one is very Genesis-ish. There's a bit of Yes also sprinkled on the top, the vocal style, and there's even some flute that gives it a little bit of Jethro Tull as well. Incredible melodic guitar lines from Steve as well. One of my favourite tracks, that is. And next after Enter the Ring is Get Me Out. Now, this one is like jazz fusion, but not a kind. This is my second purple-esque point. Those of you who know the track Ode to G from Come Taste the Band, there is just a kind of a kind of blurring of the edges where that kind of comes in, but it's that kind of jazz rock feel. I think Steve called it rock noir, but it's fantastic. Fantastic song, it really, really is. Some absolutely brilliant stuff on it, and that's one of my favourite tracks as well. That's is that an instrumental? I'm just making sure my notes. No, it's not, but it's absolutely great track. Now the next one is Ghost Moon and Living Love. I've put this one down as one of my favourites as well, and this is because Amanda Lehman sings on the opening part of this with this absolutely almost like operatic voice that's just aims straight for your heart and lands and hits the target straight in the bullseye. It's really, really good. It's one of my favourite tracks. And when I spoke to Steve, he said a lot of these melodies for this song came to him in a dream many, many years ago. It's joyous. It's really, really positive. And I think that's another reason why I'm drawn to this album, is that we do live in dark times, and this music doesn't shy away, this album doesn't shy away from going there, because all of us in our lives all have our own really dark, darkest pitch times in our lives, but it also brings you forward. It's an album of hope about the human condition, really. It really, really is. There's a couple of, there's one line in particular in this song that I absolutely love called Firebird Guitars in the Sun. I just love that line. Absolutely fantastic. The next one is Circo Inferno. This has a very Eastern feel to it, kind of like where I would have probably in other realms of music called it kind of the Richie Blackmore kind of snake charmer kind of feel or scale. That's my third Purplesque reference point. It has that feel at the start, but this then goes into some amazing instrumental sections. It really, really does. It's kind of like this. There's one set. There are lots of key changes, and again with that kind of Eastern feel, kind of moving from one key to another. So lifting up and down. We go into the drums, then we go into a really prog bit, then we go into some great sax playing, then we go into the guitar playing. And Steve's guitar on this is aggressive. It's metallic. Yes, lots of tremolo work, lots of tapping, lots of aggression, and because he's living his life through the music, so this is and a lot of it, there are quite a few tracks where it's all said with music, not words, and I think that's how Steve Hackett moves across. What I'm trying to say is that, and I've said this lots of times, that music is the transference of emotion from one person to another. Some people, it's a vocalist that does that by a lyric. A lot of this is done, yes, by lyrics, but by the music. You read the introduction to what the song, because there's introductions to what each piece of music is, but then you just let your own imagination tap into this, and this is the kind of album that's just so rewarding. After that one, we move into Breakout. This is again a very aggressive instrumental, absolutely stinging guitar, very metallic, progressive, absolutely brilliant. And then it kind of, All at Sea is again another move of emotions as well. It kind of drops back into an ambient layering, this one, as it moves into the Nightwhale, which is another one of my favourite songs from this album. Absolutely like distant shredding on the guitar in the way that it's produced, and there's absolutely beautiful vocals that come in towards the end of Into the Nightwhale. This is kind of a transformation, a transfiguration of the character moving, from the darkness into the light, and absolutely fantastic. It brings me to the last two songs, really, which are my favourites. Have I said any of these songs aren't my favourites? Well, it's all fantastic, but this how the album comes towards its conclusion is absolutely fantastic. And the last ones are Wherever You Are, and there's a lyric here: can a song travel to the ends of the earth, mirror of a moment, ghost of a universe? And this is such a joyous song. Even talking to you now, doing this review, a shiver's just gone down my spine, and it's not playing, but just the thought of this song is is sending shivers down my spine. It's just absolutely fantastic. It's got some great tapping guitar in, as usual. I say as usual because there's so much of it in this album, but it's just wonderful, and it kind of segues into the only way this album could finish, really, which is to show a different side of Steve's playing. Or those of you who follow his career, it's not that different, but it's White Dove, which is beautiful Spanish nylon string guitar, and the album couldn't finish any other way than this. And it shows how what a fantastic musician Steve Hackett is, because it just sounds like it was done in one take. And it's very intricate, really intricate playing and melody lines, etc. In fact, in many times in this album, there's some really, really complicated, really clever progressive moments. We get so used to listening to things like bands like Dream Theater, and they're kind of like almost mathematical, jaw-dropping kind of jumps from one part of a song to another. There are moments in this album that does that, but I feel it does it in a way that kind of keeps you with it. You're still on the inside of it. I think sometimes music can be almost too mathematical, where you feel it's more like exercising technique. This is fantastic technique, but it's human technique. You feel connected to the music in a way that you don't normally. Now, I know that I have interviewed Mr. Hackett a couple of times. I am a huge fan, right from the Genesis times. So am I being a bit biased by being so lucky in what I do here to have actually spoken to Steve? Perhaps I am being a little bit, but equally, I've listened to so much stuff, and I get to listen to so much new music. And I did have a chance to listen to this before I spoke to Steve, and I was able to. All of my questions are about this album, and I think it's because maybe it's because of where I'm in my life, or many of the kind of target audience for an album like this. But I think as you go through the lyrics and the music, you'll feel the same. And I think also the other things that comes across is where Steve is in his life, and how important Joe, his wife, is to him, and where he is in his life, and how happy he is, and how he's moved out of a dark place in his own journey. And obviously Joe also is heavily involved in helping him with the ideas and some of the lyrics, and that just comes out. You feel part of the creative process. And I think a vinyl album that comes with a lovely booklet, and it's on lovely red vinyl you've just seen as well, and it sounds great. It's a nice quiet pressing, inside out, part of the Sony Music Group. All I can do is recommend it. And yes, it will be one of my albums of 2024, without doubt. It's cohesive, it's a story, it's a real concept. But unlike some concept albums, this is a concept album where you can put yourself in it. You might need to kind of transpose the fact you might not have been a musician in your life. You did something else, but all of us will have had dreams and aspirations, and all of us will have met the right people, the wrong people, should have turned left when we should have turned right, etc. And this is a great album. It's an album of hope. It has excitement. It has lots of emotional angst in it as well, but it ends on a message of hope and love. So that is Steve Hackett, The Circus and the Nightwhale. It's out now, and I absolutely love it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor. Keep spinning those discs. Stay safe, everyone. Please subscribe, and I shall see you all very, very soon.